Today we're going over how to use the Blue Letter Bible. This is how I use it. It's a free resource that you can use on the web, so your desktop, your phone. I will say it's a little bit easier to read on the desktop, but it's a free resource that's available where you don't need to purchase the Concordance, the Strong Concordance book, and really gives you a really great snapshot of what the verse or verses are trying to say in the Bible. Today I'm just going to use an example verse of how I would walk through going through Search the Scriptures. You might use it a different way, but this is just how I use it, and I thought I would just share it. So today we're going to give an example. I'm just going to go through Proverbs 4:23. This is the NIV version, and it says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything flows from it." And the first thing I'm going to do is search for the verse that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to type in Proverbs 4:23, and it will take me right to it. When you get here, you're going to see other verses that are in that chapter. But again, we're doing Proverbs 4:23, so I'm just going to click on that. You also may see, again, I used NIV, so this verse is a little bit different than when I looked it up in NIV, right? "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." So again, a little bit different. Again, it's just because it's from translation to translation. You can go in here and change it, but considering that we use the Strong Concordance in Search the Scriptures, you may just want to keep it as is. All right, so going back to my verse, one of the first things that we do is highlight the words that we want to know more about. So it says, "Above all else, guard your heart." I might be interested to know what the word guard means. For everything you do flows from it. So maybe I'd like to know more what they mean by everything. Maybe I want to know more about what flows. You may have different words that you want to look up, and that's great. This is just what we're going to do for today. Also, sometimes when you read this verse, you might want to ask some questions ahead of time. So above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. You might want to read above the whole proverb to see what the message might be. You may have some questions about, in comparison to what, why the heart over the mind, whatever it may be. So you may, want to jot down some notes or questions before. I'm going to skip this step just for this example, and we're just going to get right into the definitions because we're just using the Blue Letter Bible. Your questions are your own. So for the first word, right, I would just type in the word guard, and I'm going to take a few notes here from the Blue Letter Bible. So if we go back over, it says guard. Okay, so we're using the King James Version. So it says keep thy heart. So keep thy heart with all diligence. So for this, for guard, I'm going to actually use the word diligence. I know it's not a direct correlation, but this is just something that I would do. So because this is in the Old Testament, it has an H in front of it, meaning that it's Hebrew. If it was the New Testament, it would have be Greek, most likely, and it would have a G in front of it, and that would be Greek. So I'm just going to go right from here and click on the Strong's definition. And a lot of times, too, I always like to go back. I might even be using my book, and I just add the number, so that's 4929 for my notes. And then one of the first things I look like is, okay, so, how many times was this used? I might, first go to the biblical usage: place of confinement, prison, guard, jail, guard, post, watch, observance. Gives me some other details here. I'm a little bit on the nerdier side, so sometimes I want to know, especially if you get here and there's a word that means multiple things and you might need to know the context of it. There's a really great piece here in the Lexicon if you scroll down. And a lot of times, too, I will just quickly search. So there's my verse. So it gives a little bit more detail than just of the three different things. It says it would be under number 2, which is guard, right? And then you see here some iterations of what guard post, setting a guard, band of guards. But when we get to Proverbs, it's the act of guarding. So I would add that act of guarding. Again, I find this interesting because if we scroll back up, we can again start to build upon the context of guard, the act of guarding, and then I would add something looking over here, guard, guard post, act of guarding. It really falls in that number 2 versus all of them. Yes, they all apply, but I really want to know the heart of what guard is. So then if you scroll down, you'll have the actual verses here. Again, these are also in the King James Version, but I might just go through here and see what, maybe some that jump out to me, maybe some are in the same books of the Bible, something that relates. So for just this example, I'm just going to grab Ezekiel. I might copy it over, and I would just type in Ezekiel 38:7 says this. I might even grab a few other ones, and then I would do that with each of the words. So main things I'm doing is looking at, well, first the number. If you want to get really into it, you could look at the root of the word or part of the speech, because sometimes that also gives context in, is it something that's happening all the time? Is it in past tense? Does it happen one time? I always find that interesting. I might even see how often it is used in the following manner, right? For this particular verse, it's guard, guard post, act of guarding. I knew that because I went to the Lexicon, but of course you could just put this whole thing here. And then I'll quickly look at the different correlated verses. Sometimes you might only have one verse, or there's a few words in the Bible that are only used one time. But you'll start to get an idea of painting the picture of what each word means. Then from there, right, you would give your interpretation of putting it is your interpretation, but you're putting everything together. So you're looking at all the definitions, the correlated verses, the verse that you had, the questions that you had, and you're putting it together. This is where you would put your interpretation. One of the favorite pieces, and don't miss out on this, is where you draw a picture. And picture is important because it's just a visualization of how you're going to help remember the verse. And then application. This is also interpretive. A lot of times this could be a prayer. A lot of that could be a personal declaration of how you're going to move forward in this verse. How does this verse apply to you? So that's a little bit of search the scriptures. That's how to use the Blue Letter Bible very quickly. It's a really great resource. You could get into some of the nitty-gritty of how it sounds in Hebrew. How would you pronounce that word? It gives you a lot of different details that I think are important that make it also a lot easier when you're going to search the scriptures. I hope you found this helpful.